Until You Fall VR, the review. Until You Fall is set in a medieval fantasy era, created by the team behind Expected to Die, so the expectations are quite high with this one. You are a rune knight tasked to stop the forces of evil, by putting your melee dual-wielding sword skills to the test. But ironically, you are expected to die and then rise again even more powerful, which you will be doing a lot of. Graphics are up first. Graphically, the game is beautiful, though it is full of neon lighting effects. Now if you are looking for more of a realistic graphical look, then this game doesn't really have it. Mainly because this is a fantasy game and the developers have decided to make the graphics fit that type of genre. Personally, I think it looks great in VR. There are already many games that seem dark and bland that you can find, whereas this game is full of color. The animations of the enemies are a bit limited. They have basic movement and limited attack animations, especially in the early stages. Additionally, when attacking, getting hit or defending, it covers up most of the screen, so a lot of times it can get a little difficult to see your surroundings. But it's not game breaking though, still worth the mention. Some of the enemies themselves look like tree people that have come to life. I'm not sure if this is exactly what the developers were going for, but to be honest, they still look good. However, something to note that you don't get the satisfaction of decapitation in this game, sadly. The different levels are varied enough in color and look to keep the game interesting, wanting you to move forward without feeling like you're going to the same place over and over again. Overall, I think the graphics are quite good. Now let's move on to the sound. The background music in the game is actually very fitting. It adds to the excitement but doesn't go further than that. This has its positives and negatives, as sometimes music can make an epic boss battle feel even more epic. Here it doesn't have that same feel to it, but it's not bad at all. There is voice acting in the game, which is always a bonus in a VR game these days, since a lot of VR games don't actually have any voice acting at all and everything is text based. Even in games like No Man's Sky this is the case, so I will give a bonus point to the developers. Other than that, the sounds of the weapon attacks from you or the enemy is the same and does get repetitive if you focus on it. Although because this is an intense VR game, it's doubtful that you will focus on the sounds that much to notice the repetitiveness. Now let's get right into the main course and what we have all come here for, the gameplay. Is it any fun? Well, this depends on what your idea of fun is. Will this game give you a workout? Yes, it will. Will it make you frustrated and curse after dying? Probably. Let's get this out of the way. First, I'm not a big fan of the movement in this game. Either you are fast dashing or painfully slow walking. This may be due to the style of gameplay, where not much foot movement is required. However, I think this is a missed opportunity, as dodging by ducking or moving out of the way is more fun in my opinion than just picking up the sword and holding it in one position. There are some bugs in the game when it comes to movement, as it sometimes does not update the direction you're supposed to be moving, but I'm hoping this gets sorted out with a patch. Getting into the blocking aspect of the game, which is a fundamental part of the gameplay. It's varied and interesting, as you don't know when the enemy will attack and in which direction. This does spice up the game a little, especially when engaging with the mini-bosses, who have fast attacks and any mistakes by you can cause your demise. Initially, the game will give you the easy monsters to deal with and give you a playing tutorial, which is the method I always prefer. After a while, you will learn that your weapons also have certain abilities, such as freezing the opponent or doing a lot more damage. There are upgrades available every few minutes. The most interesting part of these upgrades that I found was that it adds an element of strategy and choice to the game. You will have to choose between refilling your health or upgrading your skills. This choice will impact how you play because sometimes, if you aren't careful, you may have to start all the way back from the checkpoint. The difficulty of the game is quite mixed. The smaller minions are very easy to beat one-on-one. However, if you aren't careful, they can all surround you and then attack. But this doesn't happen as often as I would have liked it to. The monsters generally wait to attack for a few seconds, which I think lowers the difficulty substantially and removes some of the thrill of the battle. There are also weapon upgrades and new weapons that can be unlocked. This is purchased with the currency that you collect whilst playing, known as Ether. Again, this is a choice you can make during the upgrade stones. Do you want to collect more money, life, or abilities, potentially adding replayability to the game? The combat itself feels quite intense in a good way. You are encouraged to take big swings to do more damage, then do the old wagging technique. Not only that, you do extra damage if you follow the on-screen instructions. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing because it does force you to use those specific attacks if you want to kill the opponent in a reasonable amount of time, or it will take you at least 4 times longer to kill them. The blocking can get difficult due to the angles you have to perform, but I think that adds to the difficulty of the game. As you have two weapons, you should really be using both to block on the respective sides. But if you don't want to, then you better be fast enough. But like I've said above, perhaps it can be added to with actual physical movements, since it is a VR game. There are also epic boss battles, which I thoroughly enjoyed. The look of the bosses are great, the bosses have different attacks to the rest of their cronies, proving why they are the actual boss. They look awesome and are visually very pleasing. I don't want to go into too much since I don't like spoiling anything. Speaking of spoilers, there is also a story. Again, it's not something that will win awards, but it's always nice to have a reason to keep moving forward, other than the upgrades. The whole game lasts about 3 hours, depending on how often you are dying, but it still stays fun throughout. So, do I think this game is worth a buy? Overall, I think this game is fantastic for the price. For just under $20 or £15.49, it has beautiful graphics, voice acting, RPG elements of upgrades and unlocks. It also will give you a real workout and keep you engaged with the progression. There are some downsides though. It does get a little repetitive based on the limited combat style, which the developer has tried to vary a little by using different abilities for different weapons, but still seems a little bit too linear. That being said, this game is still only in early access, meaning that it can only get better. My overall score? Yes, it's worth a buy. Thank you for watching, have a great day, see you next time.